All right. Hi, welcome to the Executive Council Meet the Candidates event that we're having here at Pemmibaker TV. We're going to get started and meet all three candidates for Executive Council here in District 1, New Hampshire. And we're going to start with the opening remarks. We have 4 different questions for the candidates. We're going to allow them each time. It's going to be a timed event. And then we're going to have some opportunity for discussion. Why don't we get started with Mike Cryans? Thanks very much.
Well, first of all, thank you, Juliet, and thank you, CATV, for hosting this. My name is Mike Cryans. I'm from Hanover. I grew up in Littleton, which is about 40 miles north of here. And while I was growing up in Littleton, I attended Littleton High School and went off to Springfield College and then returned to Littleton to work in banking. And I spent some time after teaching and my time at banking, I went into running a nonprofit that dealt with substance abuse, which is such an important issue today with the opioid crisis that we're dealing with. During my time at Headrest, which was the substance abuse facility, I also was a county commissioner for 19 years. And during my time as a county commissioner, we built a major wing on the nursing home. We also built a brand new jail, replacing a jail that was 115 years old, and instilled a lot of programs in the jail because the feeling was if they came into the jail, we wanted them to leave better off than when they entered. So I think my experience as a school teacher, as a banker, as a person running a nonprofit, and in my government service will well prepare me for my time as an executive counselor. Thank you.
My name's Tobin Menard. I'm from Newport, New Hampshire. That's where I grew up. I went in the Air Force after graduating high school, did meteorology, and then when I got out, I've worked retail. I worked at Home Depot, done some manufacturing with Fujifilm, and I'm running because I don't like how contentious a lot of the party politics are, so I'm hoping to kind of be the middleman, let people work together.
Joe?
Sure. Well, thank you for the Public Access TV for being here this morning. I'm the Republican nominee for the Executive Council of District 1. I've been in this position, the people's position, for the last 5 years, and I grew up in a small town called Wakefield, where I went to grammar school and went to high school at Spalding High School in Rochester, and then went on to the University of New Hampshire. And really, I'm a retired military officer, served in the Marine Corps, 37 years, both active and reserve, while serving in conflicts in Afghanistan, Iraq, and the Persian Gulf War. I really come from a small business family. I started out teaching as well at one point, shifted to the Marriott Corporation for a couple of years before I went full-time as a military officer. I'm married. I have 2 kids. One is at PSU, and I have an 8th grader. One of the things that why I'm running again is because I feel I have a lot of unfinished business, particularly on the economic development side, working on a lot of different projects around the district. Also, as Mike has indicated, I'm very much interested in the opioid crisis. We just dedicated the Friendship House up in Bethlehem, which I was very instrumental in getting funding for that project. So that is the #1 crisis in the state of New Hampshire, is the opioid crisis, and all folks need to come on deck to try to support and fight that epidemic with the appropriate treatment, recovery, and prevention programs that the state continues to so desperately to need.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, what political issues have you been working on during the last 2 years? And we will start with Tobin Menard. Thank you very much.
I'm new to the political arena, so I've mostly just been traveling around the state, talking to people, seeing what issues they have. I know when I was up in Colebrook, they had complained about lack of competition between grocery stores because they only have one within over an hour drive. So I did email and make phone calls to several larger grocers to see if they would be interested in looking at the region. And the last I got back was that they would look at the area. I have not had any confirmation that they would be actually moving in or anything.
Next, Joe.
So some of the projects, or initiatives I've worked on the last few years really have, again, been economic development, particularly bringing companies in the North Country. We just had a company called Rotabeck that's going to be expanding to Groveton, which will bring in 50 to 150 jobs. I've been very supportive of the community college system in working on a project to expand the Littleton site, the old Hitchner site, if you will. And that's something we're in dialogue with the developer and with the community college system to build a blueprint to expand that particular college system up there. One of the crises that's going on, as well as the opioid crisis, is the shortage of a workforce in the state of New Hampshire. And that's one of the areas that I've worked diligently to try to encourage young people to stay in the state, to provide an expansion of the community college system where they can learn a skill, a trade that they can bring back into the community. And with that, expanding the businesses up north so that we can entice those businesses with a good workforce, a good educated workforce. But like anything else, I have a very robust schedule throughout the week. I'm committed to this position full time, work constituent service, work with the community leaders, work with nonprofit leaders through the contract side of state government to make sure they get the resources they need to carry out their duties and responsibilities.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that I'm currently serving on is the Unique Board, which is a college savings plan set up by the state of New Hampshire, and that has turned into one of the two largest scholarship programs for the most needy in the state. With the money that we get back from Fidelity, we turn around and put that back out into either the community colleges, into the university system, and also direct scholarships to individuals. In addition to that, you can't get away from the crisis that we're dealing with in the substance abuse area. The opioid crisis is killing far too many. It is hard to imagine a state of our size. The last 2 years we've lost 488 people one year, and the other year was 485. I've often said that if this was a national reflection, because we're roughly 1/300th of the state, we'd have 150,000 people dying nationally from this crisis. The real tragedy of the whole thing is, in addition to the mind-boggling numbers, is the fact that most of them are young people, and most of them are either putting their children in situations where they're going to their grandparents or they're going into foster homes, because many are dying. So we have to do something to break this huge cycle. Another thing that I am tremendously concerned about, and I speak of quite often when I'm out on the road campaigning, is the exodus of young people. We need to do more, not only at the college level and the community college, but we have to set up internships, apprenticeships, and programs within our high schools to get kids so they will know that there's things that they can do when they leave high school. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next question is, what is the most powerful function of the Office of Executive Counsel in your estimation? Thank you. And we will start with, who hasn't started first? Joe.
Oh, well, since I've been in the position for 5 years, I would say the most powerful position that I've really witnessed more recently is appointing good New Hampshire people in the court system. And I say that because one of the responsibilities of governing council, besides voting all contracts over $10,000 and boards and commission appointments, is the judicial appointments. So we have appointments that go to the Circuit Court, the Superior Court, and the State Supreme Court. So there's really three criteria that I look for. Are they good citizens? Are they connected to their community? Have they done things in their community as far as work on local boards and basically made their community a better community? And lastly is to see if they have the background, the legal background, the support of their peers to serve in whatever capacity it might be. One of the critical areas that we need in the state of New Hampshire is more judges in the North Country, and that's something that I've been working on very diligently. But obviously the constitutional powers, and one of those powers is the appointment of judicial appointments on the bench.
Thank you.
I think the most effective thing you can do as a executive counselor is constituent service. Many people in this district, like all the others, there's 270,000. Many of them, especially as we move further and further north of Concord, feel forgotten. And my mantra has always been that we have to bring Concord to the district and not vice versa. We have so many people that are looking for help, whether it's an individual, a group, or quite often a town or a city, need a strong voice in Concord to have that counselor stand up for them and make sure that the constituent service that they voted for will be delivered. And so I would say that while there are many things that executive counselor does, both at that table and while they're in Concord, I think the important thing is to bring back services. And you can do things like bring back the head of a department. I, for 16 years, served with Ray Burton as a county commissioner, and I saw Ray effectively bring so many different groups back to the state, back to the district to help. And again, so that will be my number one concern and priority.
I agree with Joe, on the judicial system and a lot of his criteria. Because once they're appointed, unless they really mess up and get impeached, they're there for many, many years, or until they choose to step down. So that's a very important area that we have to make sure that we're appointing the right people for.
Thank you very much. Also, I would like to offer, if either of you want to rebut anything that the other has said, make yourself ask the question, and we can offer a minute and a half for rebuttals as well. Okay, the last question is, the Executive Council approves the spending of a major portion of the approximately $5.2 billion that is appropriated annually by the legislature. So for the incumbents, have you ever voted down any major appropriations, and why? And if you're have not been an incumbent, which ones would you have voted down, if any? Thank you very much. We will start with Tobin.
I haven't been in the office, so I haven't had to vote down anything, but I would probably have voted down the Planned Parenthood, because once the money goes to them, they can shuffle it around to wherever they want, so making the argument that it's not funding abortion when actually it would be is not legitimate to me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Joe?
Well, the Governor Council doesn't really appropriate in the sense that the legislature gets the budget, they run through the process, and then once the governor signs the budget into law, that money is really released to the various agencies who put out RFPs, requests for proposals, and a bidding of the contract begins. And then once their contract is awarded, it goes to Governor and Council for approval. So as I mentioned before, all contracts over $10,000 come before the council. Now we have to look at the process. Was it a fair bidding process? That's one of the criteria of why you might shoot down a contract. Secondly, there might be a flaw within the contract itself for its intended purposes. And a lot of times, thirdly, which would be, we have questions about sole source contracts. And so those are, we like to see an open, fair, transparent process. Things that I've voted against in the past, much like Tobin, I voted against the Planned Parenthood contract because I believe that we don't have a state Hyde Act, which basically says that public monies do not go to abortions. New Hampshire, I think, needs to replicate that at the state level when it comes to taxpayers generally don't want to see their money being used for abortion services. It's a conscious vote, but I've always voted against it because most of my constituencies don't want to see taxpayers' money being used for abortions. Other contracts that I've voted down primarily have dealt with sometimes it's educational funding that goes to a state employee that doesn't match up with their responsibility within state government. So we have to push back sometimes, and sometimes on an infrastructure project that wasn't appropriately put out to bid, and it looks a little bit, it looks as though they need to go back out to bid, and sometimes we're rejected based off the maturity of the contract.
Michael?
First of all, I would have voted for the Planned Parenthood contract because I think it's for essential healthcare services that are needed, and so I would have voted for that contract. Second thing is I would not vote for things that would take money away from the public schools. I think the whole concept of the voucher system will only weaken public school systems, and in this era of where we need to send our children out stronger than ever to deal with the workforce issues that they're going to deal with. So I would not have voted against, I would not vote for voucher programs. My history while I was a county commissioner, because I think a lot of times people think that Democrats just vote for everything. I was very instrumental in getting our initial jail contract for building it reduced from $60 million all the way down to $38 million. And then after a contentious lawsuit, we were able to get it down again to $33 million. And out of that $33 million, we almost had $3 million left over, which we turned around and built a biomass plant that reduced our oil consumption from 100,000 gallons at the county to 9,000 by burning wood pellets. And it's, by coincidence, because I'm in Plymouth, it's now called the Martha Richards biomass plant because Martha was so instrumental in getting that biomass plant built. And she was like a pit bull. She wouldn't give up until it was built. So I praise her for that. So I guess that pretty much answers how I would view public funding.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm just going to offer everyone a chance to rebut anything else that someone has said. Go ahead, Mr. Kenny.
Clarity, the governing council never votes on vouchers or never votes on the educational funding. Everything that we vote on at the council is done through contract. We do vote on Department of Education contracts. They might have to do with some particular program within the agency, but that's a policy issue that really rests with the New Hampshire legislature.
Bottle?
I said I would never, ever vote for a voucher system that takes away from public school systems.
Okay, so final question is a fun, informal question. You are watching TV and you see a popular movie that you can't pass by because it's one of your favorites. In one sentence or less, what is that movie? Thanks very much. We'll start with Michael.
Sure. If I was flipping the stations around, I came across Prefontaine. Steve Prefontaine was a great American distance runner who tragically died in a auto accident. And being a distance runner, I just couldn't pass up on that one.
Thank you. Tobin?
I would probably stop on the original Star Wars.
Okay, thanks. And finally, Joe.
I think mine would be Citizen Kane because it really was all about Rosebud the sled, and that he is a man that seeked power, fame, and fortune, but in reality the most cherished thing in life for him was that little snow sled as a child.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming, everyone. We really appreciate it. It's important to everyone in the Pemmy-Baker region to meet their candidates.
And Juliet, if I could close by saying, probably all of us would agree on this, is go Red Sox.
Go Red Sox. Any other closing remarks?
Well, in my case, just to let people know, the position I'm in, I've been doing it full-time. I send out a newsletter after every governor council meeting. I send out my schedule on a Monday. I've traveled tens and tens of thousands of miles to reach a vast amount of constituencies in this 108 towns, 4 cities, and 23 unincorporated areas. Love the job, love the people, love the issues, and always work hard. And at the end of the day, if you re-elect me, that's what you're going to get is more hard work. So thank you, and I ask for your vote on November 6th.
Thank you very much. Michael?
So this morning I got up and ran 10 miles like I do every day. And the reason I mention that is because I feel I have a lot of tenacity, perseverance, commitment, and the ability to give 100% of my time to this job. I am also going to give 100% to the Executive Council. I have no other job. I'm retired, and I love the opportunity. I love this state. I have, with the exception of 4 years at college, I've lived in my entire life in Grafton County, one end in Littleton and Bethlehem, and now down in Hanover. It is a great place to live. And, you know, a little over a year ago, back in September, my mother, who's recently passed away almost at 95, said to me, a number of people at the nursing home wonder if you're going to run again. And I said, well, what do you think, Mother? Well, only do what you think is best. And I felt it was the best thing I could do with my time is to give back to the state of New Hampshire. And because there's a lot of things that need to be done. I've cited some, the opioid crisis, the exodus of young people is such a big concern of mine. So for those reasons and others, I will be in there plugging away for the next 15 days, and I ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Tobin?
I am dedicated to doing this job if you give me the chance. I got off at 7 o'clock this morning. I'm here and drove across the state to get here. Those of people who have seen me, you know, I've been to different events at all different times of day. So I put 12,000 miles on my car since mid-August, and I will be here and wherever I need to be, no matter the time of day. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.